The plastic ball technology of the 70s and 80s, Roth dominated, and in turn spawned a whole new generation of players who wanted to emulate his game. Today, the PBA honors the legacy of this great champion with a special tournament that showcases the equipment Roth used for much of his success, the plastic ball. How will today's pros deal competing exclusively with the equipment of yesteryear? It's the GEICO Mark Roth Plastic Ball Championship next.
The condition.
A packed house in Long Island today to see a past and current legend, a man who's revolutionizing the sport, a bowler whose approach must be seen to be believed, and a local amateur favorite who has the center buzzing. We welcome you to the 2010 GEICO Mark Roth Plastic Ball Championship. Glad you're with us this Sunday. I'm Rob Stone, and today the penultimate event on this season's PBA Tour, and much still to be decided. You have one bowler today who's just trying to remain an exempt bowler next season. You have two seeking their first tour title, and you have the ageless Walter Ray Williams Jr. seeking not only his PBA best 48th career tour title, but also he has the opportunity to end the day with one event left on top of the Player of the Year points race. But your number one seed is the two-handed bowler from Australia, Jason Belmonte. He won his first and only tour title in the center last March. Former pro, local product, Brian Ziesig is your number two seed. He's got a whole house behind him. WRWJ with a second place finish or better puts him on top of the Player of the Year points race. Wayne Garber with the most unorthodox approach in the game is your four seed, and he will open up the show versus two-time titleist Mike Machuga. And if Mark Roth revolutionized the sport in the 70s and 80s with his power game, Jason Belmonte is doing the exact same right now with his two-handed style. Belmo won here last season, and he did it throwing a plastic ball on the right lane. No surprise he had so much success this week. Belmo is your number one seed. Randy Peterson joins us right now, and this week, Randy, plastics not just for water bottles and sandwich bags. All the bowlers had to go old school, really old school, and throw one of these.
We're going retro, man, like 30 years back.
I like it.
You know, every player in this field this week were allowed just two of these Mark Roth plastic commemorative bowling balls. So the big differences you're going to see on today's telecast are the change of direction that you normally see down the lane with reactive resin. Well, guess what? You're not going to see that big violent change. The other thing that you're going to see also is because the plastic balls don't absorb oil like reactive resins do, the integrity of this shark oil pattern, Rob, will hold up all day today. All of this equaled with high scores this week. Man, I think we're in store for a lot of striking. In fact, your tournament leader, Jason Belmonte, bowled not one, not two, but three perfect games.
And a pair of 299s. And the tournament namesake, Mark Roth, he dropped 26 career 300 games, and the tournament named after Mark Roth. And nobody dominated the sport like he did during the plastic ball era.
You know, the thing about Mark Roth was if you ever needed one person to throw one strike for $1 million, it was going to be Mark Roth.
And now Roth gets the introduction he deserves.
A four-time PBA Player of the Year, his 34 titles tie him for third place on the all-time list. His record, 8 titles in 1978, still stands as an all-time PBA mark. His hard-throwing, cranking style changed pro bowling forever. PBA and USBC Hall of Famer from Brooklyn, New York. Please welcome Mark Roth.
A well-deserved standing ovation for a guy who really is a living legend. Johnny Petraglia sitting next to him, and Mark Roth suffered a stroke in early June of last year, left him partially paralyzed on his left side, and Randy's made it a bit of a goal to get here in attendance and show up at the tournament named for him. And the crowd really excited to see him. You could sense it the morning we rolled in here. Stepladder format today. We will begin with Mike Machuga taking on Wayne Garber, the winner versus 3 seed. Walter A. Williams Jr., the winner versus the local product. Brian Ziesig and Jason Belmonte waiting for them all. Time now for the introduction of our first bowler, Mike Machuga.
He made back-to-back telecasts earlier this season, earning 5th place and runner-up finishes. A 2-time PBA Tour winner from Erie, PA. Please welcome Michael Machuga.
So many interesting stories on this week's telecast. Machuga kind of getting lost in the fray, if you will, seeking his 3rd tour title. Gets the late drop. Opening strike for Machuga. This is his 4th top 20 finish of the season and 3rd in the top 5.
He is making his 2nd TV appearance this season, finishing 2nd at the Pepsi Red, White, and Blue Open. The owner of 4 PBA regional titles from Modesto, California. Please welcome Wayne Garber.
It is borderline impossible not to root for Wayne Garber. This is a guy who in May of '07 fell down knees first while carrying luggage and snapped the patella tendons in both of his knees. Watch his approach. It is surreal. Both get late strikes.
See the plastic ball hits right there. We have a trip 9 by Machuga, trip 4 by Wayne Garber. How about a little Lumber Liquidators Know the Wood, Rob?
Yes, please.
Okay, hey, it's the shark pattern, the longest pattern we use out here, 43 feet in length. Here's the biggest difference. Remember, we're using polyester plastic bowling balls. So this week, the lane maintenance crew put down half the amount of oil they normally would on a regular week of shark. You know, back in the day when we used plastic, they would put a thimble full of oil on each lane. Now with reactive resin, it's a shot glass full.
A late kick on the 10 makes this one manageable for Garber.
Wayne. Get it down the lane.
On the left of the lane that Garber is rolling on right now, you see the carpet that depicts the shark oil pattern.
You see the dark blue there in the center. That's the part of the lane where you want to play. The players are going to play left of second arrow because outside, they're just too slick. You can't find any friction.
Garber takes care of that one.
But you saw that hit right there, Rob. It was an 8-10 and the 10 kicks late. That's a plastic ball hit, man. Especially for a guy like Wayne Garber who throws the ball fairly straight and pretty fast.
Said, uh-oh, likes the result. Here's Machuga on what he would normally do this week if they weren't throwing plastic balls.
I would typically start off with something like a Brunswick 2.5, a little bit stronger layout, help me get through the first couple games where they're a little bit tighter, fresh back ends, and then as that goes away and they carry down a little bit, I'd go to something like a Storm Virtual Energy, which gives me a little more pop in the back, but still reads the body of the lane well. And then when it's really time to get inside, throw it over the gutters, go to something like a Storm High Road and really make it do a dance in the back end.
So big adjustment for all of our bowlers this week, going with the old school plastic ball. Machuga looking for an opening 3-bagger. Right through the nose.
And Rob, the players are used to throwing plastic bowling balls on a weekly basis, but just at spares. They go from throwing reactive resin to throwing plastic on that strike ball, and basically I think the reason why the players liked it so much this week is because instead of relying on that magic bowling ball, you have a bad first block, you go out to the truck, you drill that magic ball for the next block. This week it was all about just repetition and making shots. Old School.
Nothing wrong with Old School. It's a great movie, by the way. You know me and Will Ferrell.
Well played, Mr. Stone.
So here is Garber, and we talk about his approach and his style. And I asked him to describe it to me, and he said, a mess. That's how he describes his approach. I said, well, you know, how did it become? He said, you know, just kind of morphed that way. The accident that he had didn't exactly help, as you see how he got here, qualifying 4th.
Well, you know, he finished second in Wichita, but he beat Walter Ray in a roll-off. And, you know, that gave him a lot of confidence. Unfortunately, it's been a tough season for him. He's only made the cut twice. However, when he does make the cut, he takes advantage of it, making 2 telecasts. But you can see that ball right there is pulled all the way. A lot of adrenaline going through Wayne Garber's body right now. He just needs to check that energy level and his emotions and just kind of focus on what he's trying to do, and that's just making good shots somewhere between 2nd and 3rd arrow.
He said he made 2 cuts in 2 shows. He thought that was fantastic for him. Garber with back-to-back spares. Here's what he would have played had there not been a plastic ball demand this week.
On the normal shark pattern with the heavier volume of oil, I'd be using like a Columbia Tolo Bedlam. It gives me more friction through the higher volume of oil. This week they lowered the volume in half or even less, and of course we're all throwing plastic balls.
So there is Garber talking about his approach. The key to it, he says, I'm just trying to get into the right position going into the final 2 steps.
Yeah, it's, you know, it really is like a 2-step approach. He's got a bunch of steps in between there, but he basically just gets that pivot step in front of him and then gets a good slide and then tries not to pull it from the top of the swing. And that time, he was very successful in not yanking it down from the top.
Machuga, strike, spare. Here he is, bottom of the 4th in his 14th career TV Finals appearance. Leaves the 3-6.
Got a little early check in that front part of the lane there. Watch this. See how that ball never pushed far enough to the right. But again, because of the subtleness in the back-end reaction, instead of leaving Greek Church or Big 4, he only leaves a 3-6.
He left the 6-10 in the 3rd, cleaned that one up. This one very similar in the 3-6.
What a roller coaster season, though, that it's been for Mike Machuga this season. He's really gone through some issues with wrist injuries and whatnot. He had a real slow start to the World Series of Bowling, then started to really turn it on, had back-to-back weeks where he made telecasts, then his wrist blows up, gets a cortisone injection. Now he's back to bowling well again, making the telecast here. He said he had a nice week at the U.S. Open, and that's where he started to feel that it was turning around.
Doctor thinks it could be a partially torn ligament. The hope is inflammation stays down and rest will help it heal.
Hello, Trip 49.
Your basic Trip 49.
Reminds me of Del Ballard right there. Del Ballard Jr., he made a fortune tripping the 4-9, and of course he's going to give me some grief for saying that. But this is just good touch at the bottom of the swing and some nice pin carry.
And Del Ballard in the house.
Oh, yeah.
Today as well. Doing a ton of ball rep work the last couple weeks. His guys always seem to be on the show. Garber in the 5th, working off a strike. Some emotion from the 42-year-old. Wayne Garber, his lovely wife Bonnie, flew in yesterday, went to San Francisco, flew out here to see her husband bowl for perhaps his first ever tour title. And Wayne told me a great story about his wife, Bonnie. Let's just say she reminds him frequently that the family high series belongs to her. An 856 3-game series for Bonnie, Wayne's best, an 8 38. Bonnie recently elected to the Modesto Bowling Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Bonnie. And another strike for Garber.
Wayne Garber proving he's no flash in the pan, Rob.
Garber with a 13-pin lead. We're through 5.5. And when we return, you ready for this one, Randy?
I am.
The Machuga flop has some competition.
No way.
A little bit. We will have a flop breakdown on the backside. GEICO Mark Roth Plastic Ball Championship is brought to you by Lumber Liquidators, hardwood flooring for less. By GEICO, 15 minutes could save you 15% on car insurance. By Bear Aspirin, expect wonders. And by Go RVing. Visit GoRVing.com for a free video. Go affordably. Go RVing. We welcome you back. Wayne Garber with 4 strikes. 3 in a row, 4 through 6. He has a 13-pin lead over Mike Machuga in match number 1. The winner to take on Walter Ray Williams Jr.
Take a look at where Wayne Garber's playing this Shark oil pattern. Even though he throws it straight, remember, Shark, you got to play the middle part of the lane. Even Wayne Garber is in to almost third arrow. Mike Machuga, slower ball speed, a lot more hand. You're going to see Mike Machuga farther left. And look at that trip, 4-9.
Machuga, last tour title came November 16th of 08. He won the Chameleon Championship, and he did it as a 5 seed. He's trying to run the ladder again today to get another title.
Now, Machuga's gone through the nose the last 2 shots in a row on that right lane, Rob, but because he's not throwing reactive resin, he can't just jump in 5, 6, 7 boards and start opening up the entire lane. However, he does have to make a nice 2 or 3 board adjustment, a 2-and-1 or a 3-and-1, 2 with his feet, 1 with his target, because he needs to find some more oil in the middle part of the lane.
Let's take one more look at the Cats comparison and some updated numbers.
Wayne Garber's speed is pretty much identical to what it was back at the red, white, and blue tournament, as is Mike Machuga's. Wayne Garber's around 20 miles an hour. Machuga's around 17 and a half miles an hour, but they're playing 2 completely different places on the lane. There's where Machuga's playing, 4th arrow. He's right around the 20th board. There's his ball speed. Wayne Garber, a good arrow right of that.
Hint through the nose, but he does not pay the price. Just enough of a inside angle to get it in there.
Just a pinch heavy, but again, a nice trip 4-pin, and that, again, that's that subtleness of ball reaction down the lane. I'll tell you what, when you're right-handed, this is a righty's best friend. When you go a little bit high, look at that trip 4. Actually, trip 4-7 there late.
Garber up, looking for today's first ham bone. Ham bone! Show me those signs, Long Island.
That was just absolutely perfectly flush there for 4 in a row. Boy, you know, you think about the performance that he put on at the red, white, and blue tournament, tying Walter Ray, going to a roll-off, beating him there. You know, we asked him last night, we said, hey, what would you change or what would you do different? He said, you know what, on this telecast, I wouldn't do anything different. I'd do everything exactly the same.
Drops a Yahtzee! Garber is into it.
How about that blower 5 there? That was massive.
We Remind you to head on over to PBA.com right now, and you can submit your More of What Matters to You fan question, brought to you by One A Day. It's going to be directed this week to Jason Belmonte, our #1 seed. If your question is selected, you'll be recognized on air, and your question will be answered live. So head on over to PBA.com right now. Machuga, bottom of the 8th, down 33. Back-to-back jacks for Machuga.
See the adjustment he made right there. Machuga moved in just a little bit and pumped that speed up just a hair, but it may have been a frame too late, because if he had made the adjustment in the 6th frame, that would have been a 4-bagger.
So Machuga now down 23rd as we begin the foundation frame 9th. His first 3-bagger. Asked Machuga yesterday, did you trademark the Machuga flop? Look at that. The extension, the air, and the key is with the ball in his hand. Now there's been some challengers to his throw. Chris Paul. See, now that's just kind of a hip slide.
That was weak.
Yeah. So I said,
he didn't even have a ball in his hand.
Well, I said, who had the better slide? You or Chris Paul? I said, my God, of course it was me. He didn't even do it with the ball. Machuga really showing me some athleticism on the springs there with the flop. Garber in the 9th, looking to crack open the 6-pack, and he does.
Remember, we talked about high scores at the Open. You're seeing just that. Wayne Garber, 6 in a row now. He's in the 240s, can strike out for 269, but here's the biggie. He needs a mark here in the 10th frame. He needs good count and a mark, and he'll shut out Mike Machuga. The best Mike Machuga can shoot is 246.
It's just his 2nd ever career telecast. The first coming in December in Wichita, where he finished 2nd to Mike Scroggins, who's 3rd on the Player of the Year points list. Garber in the 10th. There's the strike.
That's a pretty good kind of mark when you need one, especially when you're on 6 in a row. That's a 7-bagger, isn't it, Rob?
It is.
Guess what? If he gets one more, guess what it is?
An 8-bagger?
No, an octomom.
No.
Slit flame is pretty open.
That is wonderful.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, let it fly.
Wayne Garber's going to move on to bowl. Guess who?
Walter Ray Williams Jr., and they have some history this season.
Absolutely.
One shy of the Octomom.
One shy of the Octomom. I knew you'd like that. He's going to be in the 250s again. I think the difference in this match was Mike Machuga not making a big enough move on the right lane. Remember, 6th frame, he went through the nose, leaving the 3-6. He also did it in the 4th frame. He makes the move, and now has struck every ball since, but it's just going to come 1 frame too late.
You see Machuga kind of speeding things up for us now that Garber has this one in hand. So Garber will move on, take on your #3 seed, Walter Ray Williams Jr. And a pretty strong performance by Wayne Garber. 258 strikes, 4 through 10. Garber took care of Walter Ray Williams Jr. in December at the Pepsi Red, White, and Blue Open. They were tied at 237. The first 1-ball roll-off, they tied 10-10. The second one, Garber won it 9-7. So Garber versus WRWJ, who's making his way to the lanes as we speak, when we return with match #2.
Thanks, guys.
So Garber advances 258 to 245. Up next, Walter Ray Williams Jr. And when we return, Randy sits down with that man, the legendary Mark Roth. This is the PBA on ESPN. And we welcome you back to Long Island, continuing coverage of the GEICO Mark Roth Plastic Ball Championship. Wayne Garber advancing to match #2 to take on Walter Ray Williams Jr. Time now for the winning touch, brought to you by Touch of Gray. Gets rid of some gray, never all. And this week's winning touch takes us back to March of '84. U.S. Open, Oak Hill, Illinois. And Mark Roth was your tournament leader, and he would eventually beat Guppy Troop by dropping a closing four-bagger for the come-from-behind 244-237 victory. It was the first of two majors in Roth's career and the 29th tour victory in his Hall of Fame career.
Mark Roth has just won his first major, Chris. Wow.
And Randy earlier caught up with the Hall of Famer. Live shot of Mark Roth, and as we mentioned,
Mark Roth, the fifth greatest player of all time. And Mark, I think the first thing that so many of us want to know is, how are you feeling?
A lot better, Randy. And I was in rehab for about 12 weeks, and I got some use of my left side, and just got to go back and do some more.
Well, Mark, you know, I think it's fitting that this tournament's named after you, the plastic ball tournament. I remember watching you as a kid back in the 70s and 80s. You completely dominated the tour back then. But not only that, you really revolutionized the sport. Why were you so dominant using plastic back in those eras?
I guess because I could turn it up real hard, and I was pretty accurate. And I went home and came out the first year, didn't do anything. I went home and practiced, you know, and just tried hitting my target. Used to put dimes down the lane and put tape over it and just try and get consistent.
And finally, Mark, I know that, you know, since your stroke back in May, obviously there's been a huge outpouring and support from around the industry, around the world, and from fans all over. Let me give you this opportunity now to say something to so many that have basically poured their hearts out to you in this time of need.
I really appreciate the fans and bowling fans of whoever it may be. They've been great, and you know, they've been helping. And Bill and Barbara Christman, Stan Kodish, my wife bailed me out again, saved my butt. You know, we went out to eat and finished eating, and I was dragging my left foot, and I felt nauseous. Went right to the hospital, the stroke hospital up in Syracuse. And you know, I worked hard and trying to get so I could bowl again.
It's great to have you back. You know, you were a hero of mine growing up, and you still are, and it's great to have you here. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Randy. It's nice to be here, believe me, to see everybody again. You know, it just could have been the other way around, and I'm just happy to be here.
Great stuff from both of you guys. Roth, voted the fifth greatest player in PBA history last season, was a four-time PBA Player of the Year. Won it in 77, 78, 79, and 1984. And there is Mark sitting next to him, his wife Denise, that he just spoke about. Denise flashing the sign, yeah, happy birthday to her mom. Earlier, she had the sign over her husband. Come on, Denise, you're better than that, right? Oh, I love it. We remind you to head on over to PBA.com, purchase a piece of history, and support a great cause in the process. Official game-used plastic balls from this event will be signed by Mark Roth and will be available for purchase over on PBA.com. Just click on the Mark Roth ball graphic at PBA.com to own your piece of PBA history. Warm-ups continue for match number 2. Your number 3 seed, the all-time tour title is Walter Ray Williams Jr. getting loose to take on Wayne Garber. When we return, Hall of Famer Johnny Petraglia joins us in the booth, and news on someone who may be bowling him in the seniors.
Like the crab cakes, and throw in chowder, salmon, and shrimp, all for around $10.
No!
No other place can match Golden Corral's Great American Seafood Tour. It's Hawaiian coconut shrimp, Maryland-style crab cakes, and more. And it's all for around $10. Only at Golden Corral.
The road is tough, your spirit's strong, driving one and on. Close shave America, close shave Barbasol. America, you're looking good, handsome, free and tall.
The NCAA Women's Basketball Championship continues later today on ESPN2, 7:30 Eastern, Oklahoma versus 2-seed Notre Dame. And at 9:30, your number 1 seed Cornhuskers taking on Kentucky. ESPN, the exclusive home of the NCAA Women's Championship. Glad you're back with us from Long Island. Rob Stone, Randy Peterson, the rose between two thorns, Hall of Famer Johnny Petraglia, who not only finished 22nd this week, but his son finished 11th. What an amazing week it must have been for you.
Oh, it was just the greatest. And then watching him qualify, and then never thought I was going to get the experience to bowl my son in the finals, and I'm still choked up every time I think about it. It was just great.
It was wonderful watching the standings throughout the week, and you also get to be here as part of the Mark Roth tournament, and I know you have a rich history with him.
Oh, yeah, Mark. Well, Mark and I go back 35 years, and what they're doing here today is just it's terrific. I think, you know, Brad Hanlon from OnTheBallBowling.com and KR Strikeforce, they put together these balls. I think over $10,000 already, you know, with the and everybody helped in, the help of Brunswick, the PBA, and its members. It's been a terrific week, just wonderful.
We're glad to have you here, and stick around, join us here as we continue our coverage here of the Mark Roth Plastic Ball Championship. There's a live shot of Mark, and the step ladder has been updated. Wayne Garber, your 4 seed with a 258-245 win, has moved on to take on Walter Ray Williams Jr. We knew there would be high scores today because, Johnny, we saw it all week long here, didn't we?
Well, it's really the bowlers today are so tremendous. Every generation is better than the previous generation and learns from them. And the bowlers are so talented today. Even though they don't get to bowl with a plastic ball all year, you put that ball in their hand, and once they figure it out, they repeat shots so well, you know that they're going to bowl well.
Rob, I think one of the things that Johnny failed to mention early on is that he did bowl his son in match play. It was the first game of match play, and he smoked Little John. So, I mean, not only did he get to bowl his son, but he beat him. So,
well, I think he was a little nervous that first game, but the next 15 games he smoked me pretty good.
What a great moment that must have been. Jealous. I think that's wonderful. So here's Garber trying to take care of the 4-pin here in the first. So Garber starts off with the spare. Here comes the living legend.
The all-time PBA Tour titles holder with 47. He is a 6-time PBA Player of the Year and 3-time member of Team USA from Ocala, Florida. Please welcome Walter Ray Williams, Jr.
Well, you saw in that graphic, Johnny, he is 50 years old, which means he is eligible for the PBA Senior Tour. And talking to him today, he says, I want to play it as much as I can this summer. That's good news for you guys, right?
Oh, yeah, that gets me just so excited. Just another spot in the finals gone.
Right, and Walter Ray opens up by shredding the rack.
Another spot in the title match gone. Here he comes.
Thanks, WRWJ. Really appreciate that. I mean, he's bowling like he's in his mid-30s right now. I mean, what a wonderful season he is having. Began the week 2nd place on the Player of the Year points list. If he finishes 3rd, he'll be tied for 1st with Bill O'Neill. 2nd or better, he's your leader. Oh, Walter Ray leads the 10.
Johnny, did you ever think in your wildest dreams you'd see a 50-year-old man leading the tour in earnings, points, and average?
Brandy, I find it totally amazing because I have always mentioned, and I mentioned it to you, that when Andy Varapapa won the All-Star back-to-back when it was 100 games at 55 and 56, I thought it was the greatest achievement in sport. Bowler of the Year, when you're 50 years old, if he wins this year, that is really spectacular. And when you are past 50, you know how tough it is to do at 50.
I think we should get a blood test from him afterwards. What do you think, guys?
I think he's going to come up clean, but it's worth a shot if you're one of his competitors, right? So Walter Ray starts strike spare. Wayne Garber up now after a 9 spare in the first. Randy Peterson, Rob Stone, and Hall of Famer Johnny Petraglia with you. Spinning Messenger won't find.
Boy, he bowled terrific that first game. He really is a lock and load, too. He can get it down there in a hurry.
When you first saw his style, Johnny, what jumped out in your mind, in your eyes?
Well, I knew that he had problems through an accident, and to watch how well he can perform, through all the adversity is really something. As he gets to those last 2 steps and lets that ball go and follow through, as you watch all week, you see how well he repeats over and over and over again the 2 most important parts of the sport, and he does that very well.
Particularly with the plastic ball.
Particularly with plastic, exactly, where the ball isn't going to run all over the place on you, and a pattern like this where there's strips, it actually it can be a little bit better for the plastic ball because you don't have to circle as far.
Right, and he doesn't like to open the lane up. I mean, this guy's a down and inner. We saw that at the red, white, and blue tournament in Wichita earlier in the season. His strength is down and in, and he can do that with this plastic ball on the shark pattern.
Leaves the 10.
The only issue, though, John, for Wayne Garber is that once the front part of the lane breaks down and he has to create just a little bit of angle, he's going to leave that weak 10.
Absolutely. Once he's got to move, say, to one left and just go arc it just a shade, he's going to start leaving those weak 10s, and even a little fuller in the pocket can create that ring in 10.
Yeah.
Where in that first game, when he could go right at him and the ball's on top of the pocket, it's going to carry when it gets there.
He had 8 strikes in match number 1, seeking his first here. Gets another spare. Can't throw too many more spares with this guy lurking. And Walter A. Williams Jr. in position to be on top of the Player of the Year points list when this day is over. Strike number 2 for WRWJ, and here he is on the difference between bowling what he normally would and bowling plastic balls.
Well, under the normal shark pattern, there's a lot more oil, and a plastic ball just really won't hook at all. So I would probably be using something like this Breakout by 900 Global. It's been a very good ball for me, won my last tournament with it, and just gives me that more hook that I need on the oil that the PBA likes to use on tour on a normal basis.
Back-to-back jacks for WRWJ.
And John, this is the crazy thing. I mean, you look at the way that ball just hit and how the 6 just carved the 10 out. As you take a look at the numbers from red, white, and blue, and today, Garber again staying at that 20-mile-an-hour range. Walter A. Williams Jr., and his ball speed's identical. But look at the way he gets a plastic ball to saw the 10 out like that. It's just amazing.
Well, even though, Randy, he doesn't throw a lot of hook, Walter Ray, as you watch that ball come out of his hand, his ball is always rotating toward the pocket. Walter Ray never gets a rev that's rotating away from the pocket and then has to recover. So even though it doesn't look like it's hooking a lot, or he doesn't have the power of some of the big rev players, he does that last couple of feet. The ball is turning when it's supposed to be turning, and he cuts the 10. He is amazing.
Hey guys, I think another worthy note is that everybody on the telecast today is using 16 pounds. Now, Wayne Garber uses 16 pounds whether he's throwing plastic or not, but Walter Ray doesn't. Your tournament leader Jason Belmonte doesn't. Mike Machuga went to 16 pounds for the show, or for this week, rather. You know, the guys went to plastic. They knew they needed that extra pound to get it to hit. I mean, it's got old school written all over it, John, because back in the day, you and I both threw 16.
And the main thing is they really were smart about this, because the, oh, look at that.
Gets the late kick to get the double, does Garber.
Because once you're throwing a plastic ball with a pancake weight block, you've taken the dynamics out of the bowling ball.
Hey, here's what you're talking about, John. You're back in the 60s. In fact, I still remember my first bowling ball was a Manhattan rubber. And then you had the plastics, man, and there was really only one name in plastics. It was the Columbia Yellow Dot.
Columbia Yellow Dot, right.
3 in a row for Walter Ray.
And then, John, after plastics, I remember I was throwing a ball that had your name on it. That was an LT-48 made by Brunswick. It was just
that Brunswick LT-48 just really got everybody going.
And the neat thing about it was, I don't know if Rob ever had a yellow dot in an LT-48, but, you know, back in the day, You showed up with 2 bowling balls. You had.
Why are you laughing, Johnny?
Well, because I know you weren't born yet, Rob. That's how.
One of many reasons to laugh at that line. Another strike for the legendary Walter Ray Williams Jr. seeking tour title number 48. And WRWJ is known for going venue to venue in his RV. Today on the trip to Baltimore for next week's show, he'll have an interesting passenger. Do you know who it is?
I do.
It's a good one, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
That info next when the PBA on ESPN returns.
PBA legend Parker Bone III knows.
We welcome you back to AMF Babylon Lanes here in West Babylon, New York on Long Island. Match number 2, the GEICO Mark Roth Plastic Ball Championship. Walter Ray Williams Jr. up 22 through 5.5.
All right, let's take a look at catching. You're dealing with 2 players that have similar rev rates. Wayne Garber playing right around the 12.5 board, 12-13. Guess what? Walter Ray Williams Jr. is mirroring him. But right now, the advantage, Walter Ray Williams Jr., he has a 4-bagger and a 22-pin lead.
Garber started off with 3 spares. Since then, strike, and he needs to get a rather big bag of strikes right now if he's going to pose any threat to Walter Ray.
Came out of commercial, get a little soft, and when you haven't been on the show a lot, that happens to you a lot. Did sort of turn it early too, though.
Yeah, it looked like it was early turn and tug, and he's going to pay for it. Oh yeah, that was almost 3rd arrow there.
Talked to Wayne the other day and asked him what he did with his downtime last couple weeks, and he said, you know, I went surfing the web. Went over to YouTube.com and watched the Wichita show, which he was on, and surprisingly enough, he said he chuckled at our commentary, Randy, and put him in a good mood and in a good frame of mind as he headed here to Long Island. But he was actually joking with his friend, saying, you know, I had really low expectations coming out here. You know, I was actually thinking of getting somebody to sub for me. And here he is, a couple months ago in Wichita, taking on Walter Ray Williams Jr. in a roll-off, and where he throws a 9 in the 2nd ball roll-off, which was enough to propel him to the title game, which he eventually lost to Mike Scroggins.
Yeah, well, that was after Walter Ray got 7. He steps up and gets 9. And I think the last thing Walter Ray wanted to do was give him a hug after that roll-off.
Yeah.
You know, I think Walter Ray would have rather taken a bite out of him because Walter was not happy with that performance.
There's the needed strike for Garber.
You know, as Walter Ray gets up, this is such a great shot because you have Mark sitting behind him, and Walter Ray, you know, arguably the greatest of all time, and the things that Mark did that is so special that we don't want to forget. Like in 77, 78, 79, Mark bowled for the title 30 times, you know, and was high average 4 times, and just totally dominated the way that Walter Ray is dominating right now.
5 in a row for WRWJ, and you go back to 1993 at the Paula Carter Homestead Classic as we take a look at a bioblast of Walter Ray. He voluntarily used a plastic ball to win that one. He's the last PBA pro to voluntarily use a plastic ball and win a tournament, again seeking tour title number 48. And we always forget, not always, we sometimes forget, he's a pretty darn good horseshoe thrower as well.
Yeah, yes.
He knows he's got this one wrapped up. He's got that smile, and he is in very comfortable position right now, up 56.
Hey, John, in getting back to Mark Roth and what he did in the late 70s and how he totally dominated this tournament. I mean, you know Mark as well as anyone, and I'm sure you guys probably roomed together off and on for quite a while. Any truth to the rumor that he used to sleep with a nightlight? Not because he was afraid of the dark, but because the dark was afraid of him?
Yeah, that's pretty good, Randy.
I was just wondering, any truth to that?
Any truth to that?
You know, he was a bad man back then.
He hated to lose more than he liked to win, that's for sure. When we would do an exhibition, if we were bowling a doubles match against 2 locals and we were down that first game, he'd pull me over, give me a pep talk. We're not going to let these two guys beat us. He did.
That's nice.
It was, you know, winning was the only thing that was in his repertoire, which is a lot like Earl. And we have to remember that he won 34 times during the Earl Anthony era, which means that he probably would have won 44 if Earl wasn't around.
Garber drops a 3-ball there in the 9th and makes way for Walter Ray Williams Jr. We talked about Walter Ray and his penchant for driving across the country in his RVs. You take a look at other finishers this week. Bill O'Neill's on top of the Player of the Year points list for now, finished 8th. And Walter Ray will be heading down to Baltimore, the season's final tournament. There's your son, Johnny Straggle Jr. at 11. Another strike for Walter Ray. Ho-hum this match. So Walter Ray's going to drive down to Baltimore when this event is done. Jason Belmonte needs a lift. As of now, he's going to drive Jason Belmonte, your #1 seed, down to Baltimore in the RV. And I said to Jason before, I said, hey, do you think Walter Ray will give you the keys? You know, let you take the RV for a spin? He just started laughing. He's like, you know, I drive on the wrong side of the road, but, you know, in an RV, might makes right. Yeah, this one is all over but the shouting.
Hey, Rob, 8 in a row.
An octomom from Walter Ray Williams Jr.
Octomom.
An octomom. That one I like.
Hey, John, real quick, though. You know, congrats goes out to John Jr. for finishing 11th. What a great week for him. But do you remember back when I stayed at your place, a few years back, and John was just a little guy, and we were upstairs horse playing, and I broke his bed?
You broke his bed? Rob, he was wrestling with my son.
First, does America really want to know the details of this story?
It's the best part of the story. My son was 9, and he body slammed him on the bed and broke the bed, and then they were standing next to each other in the kitchen, and my wife scolded them.
Nice.
It's great.
Nice. Well done, Randy. I'm glad to see you've matured so much.
Absolutely. How about Walter Ray just coming out and going to fire a little 280 at Wayne Garber saying, hey, you know, I didn't appreciate the beating I got from you in Wichita, so here, take a little 280 with you, and I'll see you in Baltimore next week.
Right, and the second frame was a flush 10.
Yeah.
280.
Rob, you had your opportunity. You missed it right there. There's your Bo Derek.
I was caught off guard. My bad. I had my head down doing some number crunching.
Wow. Hey, well, I'll tell you one thing is coming to fruition, and that's the big scores. And we're having big scores. Lots of strikes being thrown. You got Walter Ray. You got Jason Belmonte. But how about the local guy getting ready to come up, Brian Ziesig?
Now, people don't know Brian, Randy. This is a player right here. Terrific bowler.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing him. And, Johnny, want to thank you for joining us. A pleasure. As always,
Rob, as always.
To see you and to have you in the booth.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you, Ray.
Make it a regular stop. Come on. So, Walter Ray moves on in convincing fashion. A 70-pin win over Wayne Garber. Up next for him, the amateur and local boy, Brian Ziesig. Plastic Ball Championship is brought to you by KR Strike Force, the Bowling Bag Authority. By Storm, bowlers serving bowlers. Storm is the bowler's company. By Atonic, visit atonic.com/bowl. And by the United States Bowling Congress, the all-new bowl.com, your online source for all things bowling. Log on to bowl.com today. Welcome you back to Long Island. Time now for our semifinal match, if you will. Walter Ray Williams Jr. taking on Brian Ziesig. Rob Stone, Randy Peterson back here with you.
And Rob, the PBA lost 2 of its more memorable members this week. On Sunday, Bill Beach, who won a Masters title and was the winner of the very first PBA Senior Tour event, died at the age of 80 in Warren, Pennsylvania. Then on Monday, PBA charter member Bill Bonetta passed away at the age of 90 in Fresno, California. Both Beach and Bonetta were USBC Hall of Famers. The PBA would like to pass along condolences to the families of both of these men.
Our thoughts go out to them and their families. Time now for match number 3. Ziesig, your #2 seed. The local product from Levittown, New York, about 15 minutes away from here, to take on Walter Ray Williams Jr. And WJ will start us off here in match number 3. There's a live look at Ziesig. And Ziesig, a former pro on the tour. Now an amateur.
Stiff, baby.
Starts where he left off. Another strike for Walter Ray.
He owns 6 PBA regional titles and was inducted into the Long Island Bowling Hall of Fame in 2006 from Levittown, New York. Please welcome Brian Ziesig.
Huge crowd here for Ziesig. And that's the face of like the New York lottery guy, and apparently the point on that guy is they put a big head on a small body, and Ziesig's nickname is Big Head, El Grande Head. And the ball eventually gets there for a strike, and Big Head opens up with the jack.
You know, I knew Brian when he was a touring player back in '98. He was a touring player from '98 to 2001. Just a real likable guy, nice guy. And when you talk to the folks here around town, especially at Johnny Petraglia, who know about the bowlers here in the New York area, you always hear the same message, that Brian Ziesig is arguably the best bowler in New York.
Back-to-back jacks for Ziesig. Trying to become the first amateur since the PBA went to an exempt field format, and that was in the 04-05 season. He's trying to become the first to win a standard PBA event as an amateur. Last amateur to win, Brett Wolf in 2002, and that was the Masters in Reno. But he's got a big task ahead of him. Nothing but strikes in our semi so far.
Hey, that's a Andy Verapapa 300 game.
So has Walter Ray had a good season or not? Let's ask WRWJ.
Well, I mean, it's not my best season, but considering how old I am, it's one of my better seasons. So it's, you know, I never expected to be this competitive at age 50, and you know, I don't know that it wasn't possible before, just that nobody had done it before. And most of the guys, when they get to 50, they're just not as interested in bowling full time against all the kids. And for some reason, I still am. I love to compete, and as long as I'm competitive, I'm going to still do it.
Yeah. No end in sight for that man right there. When I said Andy Verapapa 300, that's 12 strikes in a row over 2 games, Rob.
Ziesig looking for an opening 3-bagger. And finds it. Well, the RV's got one more trip to make. Is it gassed? Is it oiled up? You got the windshield wiper fluid? We ready to roll to Baltimore?
You know I always have the RV sled ready to go.
It's an Easter Sunday tradition, the PBA. On ESPN Live next Sunday, 1 Eastern, the Lumber Liquidators Marathon Open, the final event of the 09-10 Lumber Liquidators PBA season. And then after that, the PBA Experience Showdown. You can see coverage of that in April. Hambo!
Well, let me just say this, Rob. Brian Ziesig going up against the greatest player to ever live, and Brian looks stoic. I mean, he doesn't look like there's any emotion going through that body at all. Let me just tell you that this guy is one of the funniest men you'll ever meet. He's got the greatest personality. You're not seeing any right now. He's got himself in some kind of zone.
Wow, a great run by Walter Ray.
Yeah, because he doesn't...
13 strikes in a row, ending there.
Yeah, and because he doesn't strike on that ball, he is now trailing. But listen to this. Sounded like that bowling ball was catching the thumb hole, which made it skid just enough to leave a ring of 10.
And he puts on the skinny jeans to bump the 10 out. Ooh, exhale, inhale, squeeze.
Boy, he's disgusted that that was that close.
All right.
You know, most guys would be like, hey, I made it. It's no big deal.
Well, that's the kind of perfection he expects from himself. The first non-strike of our semifinal. Here's Walter Ray to begin the 5th. Back on the strike train for Walter Ray. He came into the week 4 points behind Bill O'Neill For the Player of the Year points race, he has already guaranteed himself 4 points courtesy of an at-worst third-place finish. So right now, Walter Ray O'Neill tied for first on the Player of the Year standings. Should Walter Ray win or even finish second, he'll be all alone in first. Opening Yahtzee!
Are you kidding me? Brian Ziesig, the head? Wow, what a performance thus far. This guy said, you know what, Randy? All I have to do tomorrow is just try to have fun and make sure I get my hand around the side of the bowling ball and I'll be fine. Well, he's doing just that. Although, you don't really see the outwardness of the fun. It's all internal right now. I promise you, his heart is racing.
Well, all of his fans and family here are doing the fun part. They're taking care of that. Looking for an opening six-pack. And no! 7-10! Maybe Mark Roth could step up and take care of it for him. Only 3 times has a 7-10 been converted on television, and Mark Roth, one of them. And here is Roth doing it in 1980. Take care of the 10, kick it, and come on back for the 7.
And he did it throwing plastic.
Foreshadowing? No. Would have been nice. And there is Mark. Roth said, you know what he should have done? A little more to the right and a little more power. I could have taken care of that. A 7-pin match through 5.5. What a start. What does the conclusion have? Ziesig, Walter Ray, the conclusion when we return to Long Island. Rob Stone, Randy Peterson, welcome you back on this spring Sunday here in Long Island. Continuing coverage of the GEICO Mark Roth Plastic Ball Championship. Again, all of our competitors all week long and tonight using old school plastic balls.
How about a little computer-aided tracking system provided by Kegel? Here's where Walter Ray's playing. He's still between second and third arrow at about 19 miles an hour. My man, Brian Ziesig, higher rev rate, slower speed. He's in the 22nd board. Look how much slower his ball speed is and a much higher rev rate.
Ziesig with a wonderful start, opened up with a 5-bagger, but then an open frame in the 6th after he could not convert the 7-10 split. Here's Walter Ray Williams Jr. 4 strikes through 5 frames here in the semis.
We asked Walter Ray about this format, this tournament this week with the plastic bowling balls. He said, I love it. He said, you can only drill 2 balls, so I only have to bring 2 balls down to my starting pair of lanes as opposed to 7 or 8 in a normal week. And he said, and the locker room was so sparse. You could actually walk around in the locker room.
Spacious, roomy.
Very roomy.
Nice change of pace.
Yes. Get up, baby, get up. Uh-oh.
Why do you say uh-oh?
Well, that ball hit a little flat. I mean, now he only leaves a 5-pin, but it could have been a 5-7. It could have been a 5-10. It could have been a pocket split at that speed, that light. You know, the good news is that Walter Ray has taken the lead with a strike in the 6th frame. He will convert the 5-pin. I mean, I would bet everything that he will make the 5-pin. So he'll have a 2-pin lead going into the 7th. Or excuse me, going into his 8th frame.
Nails that one flush, remains clean. So up now, Brian Ziesig, and Brian stepping up. A long commercial break off of an open frame. What's the mindset?
Anybody got a stone so I can take out Goliath here?
I got a couple for you. Hey, thanks for bringing all the fans to the house, but you were telling me during the break you diverted a bus from here?
Yeah, I just got out on Sunrise Highway, waved my head in one direction, and the bus went in the other way.
The beauty of having a large head, is that what you're telling me?
That's pretty much it, baby.
All right, bud, thanks.
No problem.
And there's fans of the big head.
We called him Heed on tour.
Heed! Mike Myers, where are you?
Really?
Gut punch.
Really, Rob? He starts off with the front 5, then goes pocket 7-10, and then solid 8. with a plastic ball at fourth arrow.
Now, the former pro left the game and was hired by bowling distributor Ace Mitchell in 03. He's a Long Island sales rep, sells ball machines, balls, bags, shoes to bowling shops all around the world. Asked him if a win today would change things for him. He said, no, I'll be at my desk at 9 a.m. fielding calls. I'm sure my phone will ring a little bit more. And I also want to send some early congratulations to Brian and his lovely wife, Christine, our second child on the way. Kirsten is their 7-year-old daughter. She'll be a big sister in late July. Kyle Robert is due for Brian and Christine.
Brian actually works with Peter Hakem. And Peter Hakem's a former winner of the Long Island Open back in 1986. Look out. Wow. All right, the kid catches a break finally. There's the bam.
Look at Kirsten breaking it down. Shake it, but don't break it, Kirsten. Kirsten dialed in, so his wife Christine having fun there in the corner.
Wait till her friends see her at school tomorrow.
6 strikes for Ziesig. Walter Ray looking for his 6th of this match and finding it. ESPN is your NBA destination this evening. Tim Duncan and the Spurs head to Boston to take on KG and Company. The NBA special edition on ESPN and ESPN360.com tonight, 8 Eastern, Spurs, Celtics. Walter Ray to begin the 9th. Up 2. Leaves the 10.
Wow, where'd my hook go?
And now he's in danger of losing this match. He could have struck out to shoot 258. The best Brian Ziesig could have shot was 256. Now, Brian Ziesig could step up in the 9th and 10th frame, strike out, and beat Walter Ray Williams Jr. He says, where's his hook? Well, this one never turned over down the lane. He's lucky only to leave the 10. The 8 could have stood very easily with that. Remember in Reno against Patrick Allen last season? Left an 8-10, pocket 8-10 to lose.
Takes care of that 10 pin in the 9th. So now the local product. Brian Ziesig from Levittown, New York, just about 15 minutes away from the bowling center, steps up in the 9th.
2 strikes away from moving on to the title match. Strike here in the 9th, first strike in the 10th frame. He's going to beat Walter Ray Williams Jr.
Walter Ray currently tied with Bill O'Neill atop the Player of the Year points list. A win here would get him into first all by himself. Strike number 7 of the semis. Kirsten. That is not a replay. That is her dance. That is her move.
Hey, quite honestly, this match shouldn't be this close. Brian leaves a solid 8 in the 7th frame. He would have the lead right now. If it wasn't for that pocket 7-10, this match would be over. Walter Ray's just in the 220s. Brian Ziesig starts front 5, blower 7-10, solid 8 double. One more strike right here in the 10th frame. He's going to bowl for the title.
Lead at 8. Needs a strike here and then 7 to move on.
There's your strike! There's your win! What a huge break! Trips the 2-8-10 late. Hey, you know what? He deserves it. Pocket 7-10, solid 8. Remember, don't forget those 2 hits.
Still needs 7. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but the hard part has been done. What a win this would be.
Unbelievable trip to 8. Watch this.
I mean, staring at double wood.
Unbelievable.
7 to move on. How about 10? Title match time for Ziesig.
Hey, Brian, how about the break you just got in the 10th frame chased that 2-8 out of there after going pocket 7-10, solid 8. How does it feel?
Tells you there is some karma in this world, I guess.
So what do we do now here with this shot? Do we do a little test?
You know, I'm going to move a little bit, but not a whole lot.
So Ziesig, the amateur, takes down what many will call the greatest ever, Walter Ray Williams Jr., to move on to the title match versus Jason Belmonte. What a match. The 2 seed rolls on.
One more.
There's his wife, Christine, and his many, many fans here today. Here's Walter Ray in the 10th.
Hey, Brian, you're going to bowl for the title for the first time ever. Describe what's going through your mind right now.
Seeing how many times I can pay the guy in the back to roll that 2-8 for me.
Attaboy, good luck.
Thanks.
So Brian Ziesig drops a 255 on Walter Ray Williams Jr., and he will move on to take on your number 1 seed, Jason Belmonte. And there is Jason in the corner, getting loose and getting set for his title match versus the amateur. And we'll hear from Brian when our coverage of the GEICO Mark Roth Plastic Ball Championship rolls on from Long Island. This is the PBA on ESPN.
Switching to...
We welcome you back to Long Island. Live pictures of Jason Belmonte, the two-handed bowler from Australia, has won 1 tour title, and it came in this venue last season. Belmonte, your number 1 seed, to take on 2 seed, the amateur, Brian Ziesig. Time now for our GEICO Championship recap. Randall.
Thank you, Rob. Match number 1, Mike Machuga taking on Wayne Garber. Wayne Garber gets up, gets the first hit in the 10th frame, blows that 5 sideways, and takes out Machuga 258 to 245. Then in match number 2, the great one, Walter Ray Williams Jr. steps up and he goes strike spare off the sheet. Takes care of Wayne Garber 280 to 210. And then it's the local fave, Brian Ziesig, taking on the greatest player ever, getting the greatest break of his bowling career, tripping the 280.
The GEICO Mark Roth Plastic Ball Championship is brought to you by GEICO. 15 minutes could save you 15% on car insurance. By Touch of Gray, gets rid of some gray, never all. By Golden Corral's Great American Seafood Tour, crab cakes, coconut shrimp, and tilapia, all for around $10. And by One A Day Men's 50+ Advantage, the multivitamin with more of what matters. The legendary Mark Roth with a great seat to watch what should be a wonderful title match. The 2010 GEICO Mark Roth Plastic Ball Championship title match rolls on again. Mark's wife Denise with the sign again. We get it. Your mom's having a birthday. Happy birthday to her. Rob Stone, Randy Peterson, coming your way live here from West Babylon, New York.
Does she not understand that she's cutting into Mark's FaceTime every time she does that?
Somebody's going to have to send her a note. So here's Brian Ziesig, former pro, current amateur, lives 15 minutes away from this venue. His 10th strike of the day. He opened his semi with a 5-bagger, starts with a strike there. Now your number 1 seed.
Making his 3rd TV appearance this season, he won his first PBA Tour title here last season on his way to becoming the 08-09 PBA Rookie of the Year. A 2-time World Bowler of the Year from Orange, New South Wales, Australia. Please welcome Jason Belmonte.
Great fan support here in Long Island for Jason. Again, he won here in this venue last year. It was the Bowling Foundation Long Island Classic. He beat his buddies Michael Fagan and Bill O'Neill for the title. Opening jack for Belmo, and here is Jason on what rolling a plastic ball means to him this week.
Typically, the traditional shark pattern is obviously our longest
pattern, and it also has the most oil in the lane. So you're going to want to use your most aggressive balls most of the time. Storm's latest and basically his brand new high technology ball is the Invasion. I use that most of the time, especially earlier in the blocks. You know, it just gives you a ball that reads heavy oil. You know, the cover and the core obviously are the latest technology that we have on the market, and basically if you need a ball that turns, which you do on the Shark, you know, you normally go to the Invasion.
Back-to-back opening jacks for Belmo.
Last year at this event, excuse me, at this center during the Long Island tournament, it wasn't a plastic ball tournament, but Jason Belmonte used a plastic ball exclusively on the right lane. I think the thing that makes him so scary out here to all the other players is, yeah, he's got a really high rev rate, and yeah, he can hook it a lot, but he can also throw it really straight.
Ziesig. An opening pair. Time now for the Bear breakdown and the Ziesig headshot. We need to maybe do a little work on that. He caught us off guard by making the show as an amateur, and here he is trying to make his first victory on the PBA Tour. The amateur taking on Jason Belmonte. Now watch Ziesig's approach. Very interesting. He calls it very awkward. Since a kid, he's bowled this way. Left hand, doesn't use it for balance. It'll go right to his knee. Another strike. It looks odd, but it works. He was telling me a story about Patrick Allen. These guys, good buddies from Long Island, growing up, and PA would go to him, yo, Hoss, how do you do that? And Patrick would try and bowl by putting his right hand on his knee, and he almost fell over. He said, I don't know how you do it. And for Brian, it works, plain and simple.
Hey, that's why this is such a great sport. I mean, different styles, you know, lots of different ways of getting it done. You're looking at the future right here of bowling. This two-handed style is just, to me, is just crazy. It's amazing.
Leaves the 10. Do you really believe it's the future of bowling?
Well, I think that you're going to start seeing it more and more where players aren't going to use their thumb, whether it's a two-handed style or young Johnny Petraglia Jr. not using his thumb like Mike Miller used to do back in the 90s. It's, you know, you look at Mark Roth, who's sitting just behind Jason Belmonte, and if you remember back in the day, Mark Roth's thumb looked like somebody took a hammer to it after every block. Mark Roth went through more new skin and trying to patch that bloody, deformed thumb up. Well, now what the players are doing, a lot of the players are taking their thumb out of the ball and taking it out of the equation. We even saw Walter A. Williams Jr. in warm-ups throwing it with two hands. I just think you're going to start seeing more and more players doing it.
So what you're telling me, not a lot of hand models on the PBA Tour.
Well played, Mr. Stone.
Belmonte in the fourth off of a spare in the third. Oh, he heaves this one. And an explosion around the 10-pin again.
Good frames.
All right, so that's going to be the issue. I think both players are going to have zero trouble hitting the pocket. We've seen that all day long with huge scores. But because of the velocity of Jason Belmonte and that rev rate, he's left back-to-back ring and tens after starting with two strikes. That's what makes winning out here so tough in a one-game match.
So a spare for Belmonte and Belmo with a pair of spares. And Brian, you see those back-to-back spares from your opponent. What does that do for you entering the fourth?
Makes me happy I wasn't bowling him. Well, that's right. I did bowl him last night, and he shot 299 at me. So at least his average is going down against me.
Is he great or what? I told you he has a great personality. He's just an awesome guy, man, and it's just really great to see him doing this.
And here he is, looking to start with 4 in a row in our title match. Opening ham bone in the title match.
Brian Ziesig is just bowling phenomenally today. Now take a look at the last 3 shots on the left lane, in his last match against Walter Ray Williams Jr. Blows the rack on that last shot. This one here, just a little bit inside. It holds pocket. And this last shot, the biggest shot of his career, when he tripped the 2-8, just a little bit wide. So what's Brian Ziesig has done is he's created a little bit of room on the lane with that plastic ball.
10-pin shy of dropping the nickel. And we were talking all afternoon what a great guy Brian is. As first of all, we like to thank Karen Whittall, the GEICO supervisor, for being here, and GEICO's sponsorship of this Mark Roth Plastic Ball Championship. And we're talking about Ziesig. This kind of sums up what kind of guy he is. I don't think I've told you this story. Called him this morning. And while I'm holds, and they say, hey, you know, please enjoy the music while this call goes through, what comes on? If you like pina coladas. The Escape song, the Pina Colada song from, what was it, Rupert Murdoch, is what he paid to put on his cell phone. He's like, I asked him about it. He's like, yep, that's Rupert Holmes, not Murdoch. Murdoch owns the label, I think, that the Escape song is on. So the Pina Colada song, Brian Ziesig's favorite song. Says a lot there, doesn't it? Belmonte back on the strike train.
I can't believe you're keeping things from me.
I know. Love the Pina Colada song. Mike Saragano there in the burgundy shirt. General manager here at AMF Babylon Lanes, sitting next to Tom Clark, PBA. Our thanks to both of those gentlemen, all they do. Another look at Mark Roth and his wife as they take in this title match. Johnny Petraglia to the left of Mark Roth.
What do you think Mark Roth's saying to himself when he watches this two-handed style of Jason Belmonte with that plastic ball? Because, you know, quite honestly, back in the day when Mark Roth dominated the tour with plastic, it was kind of like what Jason Belmonte is doing now. You know, the rev rate comparison, Mark Roth, the first prolific cranker to come out on tour and dominate.
Close.
Belmo cranks that rack. That's a huge drop and give me 10.
Pin match through 5.5. Brian Ziesig, front 4, 10-pin. Jason Belmonte went double, ring 10, double. We got us a ball game, folks.
Come on, Messenger, yeah!
What'd you say there, Rob?
Got the golden retriever to fetch the 10-pin.
How about not one but two messengers? Check this out. Remember, we talked about having the mojo. This kid here, watch this. Not one but two bird dogs coming over to take the 10 out.
Determined retrievers.
This is good stuff.
Yours might need all the help they can get.
I was talking to Brian today. He has a tournament later in the day at his main lanes. He says it's probably going to be a little bit more like a party, Rob. Oh, yeah. There may be a party at Ziesig's tonight.
Well, I'll tell you what, you know, you could just see the other players, too, as well. Jason Belmonte just gave him 5. You saw the reaction from Walter Ray Williams Jr. when he lost to Brian. I'll tell you what, nobody likes to lose, but if you're going to lose...
This is an okay way to go.
It wouldn't feel so bad losing to Brian Ziesig.
Has never won on the tour. He is an amateur. Lives just 15 minutes away. Jason Belmonte, 1 tour title on his resume, and it came here in the center. Man, how was that not a 3-bagger?
One-handed to knock those things over.
It's the excessive amount of ball speed.
So he needs to slow it down?
Well, you know, that's the hard part for Jason is if he does get a little too slow, the ball's going to overhook. There's your line just inside third arrow. I think right now it's just a speed thing. And And one of the big things that the players all talked about this week was, you know, having to reduce ball speed to get the ball reaction down the lane. Jason Belmonte didn't have to do that because of his extremely high rev rate. But I think that's the reason why you've seen Jason leave 3 10-pins through 7 frames.
I asked Jason today, you know, what does plastic mean to you? And he said one word, predictability. If you're dialed in, you don't move.
Come on.
Strike number 5 for Belmo in the title match.
Well, Rob, and that's a great point, but here's the thing that I think you need to understand. Everybody talks about the new equipment and you know, how it does this and that and it increases scores, but it also tears up oil patterns. We are seeing the scores today not because the players are, well, it has a little bit to do with the fact that the players are throwing plastic, but it's how the oil is applied to the lane. Players have a good shot. There's a good shot out there in throwing bowling balls that don't beat up the oil pattern.
Left hand on knee, 10-pin stance.
Do it again. And so when you have that, now the players just rely on shot making and repeatability. They don't rely on going and grabbing another ball or trying something that hooks more or less. It's one ball, everybody's on the same playing surface, and now it comes down to ability, who can make the shots, who can get their ball into the 1-3 pocket more so than their opponent.
Ziesig, second spare of this title match. Saying to us, you know, I've been bowling for 30 years, but plastic balls, yeah, not since a kid, but he thought he had a bit of an advantage coming into this week. He drilled a couple plastic balls about 4 or 5 weeks ago and just started practicing 2 or 4 times a week for about an hour, hour and a half, and he felt, you know, I got a pretty good chance coming in here because I have a huge head start in the practice world as far as throwing plastic balls are concerned, compared to the normal pros who are out here every week changing balls, seeing different lane conditions, traveling, the wear and tear, everything.
Well, and here's the deal getting up in the 9th frame. If Brian Ziesig goes 9 spare or strike, he cannot be shut out in this match.
Ziesig gets the 7 to drop late, and the 10 has a buddy nudged up to it.
Well, that was huge because, remember, he did leave a pocket 7-10 in his last match, but this would have been the end of Brian Ziesig if he would have left a pocket 7-10. 7 goes late. Now, here's the deal. He spares here. He can strike out in the 10th frame for 247. Jason Belmonte can strike out 8th, 9th, and 10th for 247.
Drama. Ziesig takes care of the spare. So Ziesig sits down and Jason Belmonte steps up. Jason, you saw Brian throw back-to-back spares. What's the mentality here as you step up to close out your title match?
Honestly, I'm very confident that he's going to strike out. So my thought process right now is make him do it.
So Jason Belmonte saying, I'm going to strike out.
Jason Belmonte is going to finish the match first. He's going to be able to put all the pressure on Brian Ziesig. Here's the thing. Jason Belmonte strikes out. He can't lose either. So all the pressure is sitting on that man's shoulders right there if Jason Belmonte can perform in the 9th and 10th frame.
Oh, no.
Didn't like it, but gets them all to drop.
You know, we saw that in a couple earlier matches. I believe it was Mike Machuga on that right lane where the player got it a bit wide and didn't like it. And that ball just sucked up right into the 1-3. Check this out. He didn't like it off his hand. There's the turn, and there's the 6 slap and the 10 out.
Big, epic-esque break for Belmonte. 6 strikes in this match. 3 sets of 2-baggers for Belmo.
This is one of the best title matches I can remember in some time. Both players throwing plastic bowling balls, coming down to every shot in the 10th frame.
Gets them all to drop again. Pressure, beginning to be elevated on Ziesig. That's 3 in a row. He has 2 more shots, does Belmonte. Ziesig has been very focused with that head down. You see a little peripheral vision kicking out right there, watching his competitor, but he has stayed in the moment. Not easy for an amateur.
Oh, he's bowled wonderfully. He's performed magnificently today. First time on television, takes care of the greatest player ever. And now going up against the two-handed phenom from Australia, has a chance to win.
One more time. Yes! Big 4-bagger for Belmo. 1 more shot for him. Oh, what a step-up job by your #1 seed. One more time. Yes! Yes!
With a strike here, Jason Belmonte cannot be shut out in regulation. He would force Brian Ziesig to throw 3 in the 10th to tie.
What a closing job by Belmonte.
Well, he can't lose now.
Come on. A 247, and he will take a seat and watch Ziesig step up for some mammoth shots.
Boy, you watch this shot here, and then right after, Ziesig was out of his seat immediately, almost as if he knew Jason Belmonte was going to strike out.
Four shots in the right lane, 3 of them have been strikes for Ziesig. Must get a strike here, and he delivers. 2 more to go for a roll-off.
This is what makes professional bowling such a great sport. When you get to this situation at this level and you can get your body to perform under this type of pressure, this is what makes it fun.
2 strikes, mandatory, to force a roll-off as Brian's wife, Christine, looks on.
Got it!
1 more, and we have a roll-off. Belmonte was cheering on his competitor there just seconds before the shot took.
Yeah, no surprise. Belmonte is a class act. And again, we talked about it earlier, how pretty hard to root against this guy. Now, Brian Ziesig, 1 strike away from sending it into OT.
Again, Ziesig, former pro, now an amateur, resides in Levittown, New York, not too far from this venue, has a huge crowd of family and friends here to watch him try and strike here in the 10th to force a roll-off in the title match.
We got bonus bowling! Bonus bowling!
247. 247.
Don't go anywhere, folks. We may be here a while.
Well, we've already blown through our time slot. Let's make good use of this extra time, right?
Absolutely.
Ziesig handling it so well. I mean, both of these guys have been lights out 9th and the 10th.
There's that right reaction where the players get it just a little bit wide. That ball hooked back just like it did for Jason Belmonte in his 9th frame.
And here's Kirk Von Kruger, PBA Tournament Director.
Ladies and gentlemen, by PBA rules, tie games must be decided by a 1-ball sudden death roll-off. The higher-seeded player, in this case Brian Ziesig, Jason Belmonte. Oops. We'll have the choice of starting lane and order. Jason?
Left, and I'll go first.
Jason has elected to start on the left lane. Now, if this is tied after that first ball, they'll continue to alternate back and forth in the same order until the tie is broken. Good luck, gentlemen.
Jason Belmonte is
Well, it's just fitting. I mean, we had some really great OT games in the NCAA tournament, and now we've got one right here with Jason Belmonte and Brian Ziesig.
This is great. So now Jason Belmonte, he stepped up. He was huge in the 9th and 10th to force Ziesig to strike out in the 10th. He's had time to watch that, and now he settles himself down. First ball of a one-ball sudden death roll-off. Leaves the 7.
Are you kidding me?
A strike will win it for Ziesig.
Just an absolute atomic stone 7-pin. Watch this. Look at the 7-pin now. This is just piped.
And the crowd knows what Brian needs to do, and you can hear them starting to build up. And now quiet down. If he gets a strike, this place is going to erupt. A 9 for a second ball roll-off. A 10 for the win.
He got it! He got it!
Very happy. Happy birthday, Andrew. Happy birthday. Check it out, guys.
His first tour title.
One for the local.
Comes in the stomping grounds and comes as an amateur.
One for the
Brian Ziesig, the 35-year-old from Levittown, New York, becomes the first amateur to win a PBA Tour title since 2002. Hugs and kisses for his daughter and his wife, and a replay of his strike in ball number 1 of the roll-off versus Jason Belmonte. The crowd was on their feet when it left his hands, and look at the late kick on the 10 in the react. Wow.
Thank you, AMF Babylon Lane. Chuck Gardner, I think he might be on his way to Baltimore right now. Brunswick,
What
thank you.
a conclusion in our second-to-last event of the season. We will wrap it up. Brian Ziesig gets his first tour title in dramatic fashion.
Unbelievable.
Good switching. And we welcome you back to Long Island for the most dramatic conclusion to a PBA event we have had in years. The GEICO Mark Roth Classic Ball Championship goes to that man, the amateur, Brian Ziesig. And what a furious final frames it was. Jason Belmonte striking out in the 10th. Brian Ziesig doing the same to force a one-ball roll-off. What a shot from Belmo, but he leaves the 7 standing. Ziesig, the local boy, steps up, needs a strike to win. And look at the late kick on the 10 to drop all 10 and get his first tour title. Randy standing by with our 2 finalists, and we begin with Jason.
Thanks, Rob. Jason, obviously a heartbreaking way to lose, but take us through the 10th frame where you had to strike out to force Brian to do that, the roll-off, everything leading up to that stone 7-pin.
Well, the entire week, every time I've seen Brian step up when he's needed it, he's got every single one. So in my head, I knew that 3 strikes was going to be good enough for a tie. Anything less, and he was going to win it right there. So I just wanted to hit what I was looking at and just be aggressive. I did that. You know, I couldn't have thrown 3 better shots in the 10th, and then the roll-off shot. Yeah, I felt like someone just kicked me right between the legs, but. You know, that's bowling. You know, hopefully next time that fella will fall over for me.
Well, thanks very much. What a great performance. Sorry about the loss there, Jason. How about your winner? Thank you, buddy. Wow. Rob and I talked about the mojo that you seem to have, obviously being the local guy. What went through your mind after Jason struck out and you needed all 3 in the 10th to take it to OT?
I wanted to make 3 good shots. I mean, that's really all I was getting up there for. 3 good shots. Don't get overamped. That's what I had a tendency to do. Anytime I overamped it, I seemed to leave a 10. And after he left a solid 7, I did the same thing. I overamped 1, and I got some house love on the 10 there. A little house love.
When you saw Jason, first ball in the OT, he leaves the solid 7-pin. What went through your mind when you stepped up on the lane?
If I don't win it now, I might not get another chance. I'll tell you what. I mean, geez, 300s, 299s this week. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, the only thing he left sicker than that was the solid 8 when he bowled 299 against me last night, Friday night. But other than that, I mean, I just wanted to make a good shot, and I made a good shot. I didn't make a great shot. He made a great shot, but it was my day.
Today is your day. Congratulations, Brian. Great job.
What a victory for Brian Ziesig. We hit the road. We're in Baltimore next Sunday. Live